With all the data, I find it shocking that hitting children is still actually legal, while hitting between adults is considered a crime and hitting an animal is considered cruelty. What makes it different for a child? Side thinking, little side thought. Well, while theoretical and rarely enforced, laws even protect people in prison from corporal punishment. But with children, state laws actually define how to strike a child's body appropriately. Why don't we extend the same courtesy to children that we extend to prisoners and dogs? I'm reading an excerpt from a quote from a book that I'm reading titled Spare the Kids. Why Whooping Children Won't Save Black America. The author is Stacey Patton. We'll get into it. But I like to do my formal introduction. And I know that's no way to really start a show. So I'll start over and I'll be right back. Well, hello, and welcome to In Your Ear Radio. I am your host, Latoya. As always, it is my pleasure to be present with you. And as for you all, your presence is my presence. So thank you for all who are joining me live in the chat on Facebook and YouTube. Shout out to GB, who was first in the chat. Okay, you back in your place. All right. That's what's up. And thank you to all of you. It's so beautiful outside. So it's very, very nice. I got up early and went to hang out to support a Black business. If you guys aren't aware, this is a national blackout. For those who are participating or interested to learn more, this took effect November 25th and it goes to December 2nd, where we're being encouraged to only spend our money with small businesses, Black businesses. That excludes big box businesses, corporate entities, or publicly traded companies. This is just putting our money where our mouth is. So just letting our dollars speak for us is the intention. And so it was really nice to get out at the park close to my home, not too far in Aliante. And it was lovely. It's called Spill Tea Cafe, and they do pop-ups. So they, just show up anywhere in the Las Vegas community. And this was at a park, and it was lovely because you can walk, you can sip tea or coffee, hot or cold, and you can have conversations with those who are standing, getting their brews as well. Or again, you can just go walk and get some exercise or get on the swing like my auntie did. I saw her out there on that swing. So it was lovely. Got that vitamin D in, and I encourage you all. They have a monthly, so if you're not following them, go to the Spill Tea Cafe site. I think they have it on Facebook. I'm not sure if it's Instagram too, but you can follow their monthly pop-ups and come hang out. You may meet a new friend. You can bring your pets out and or link up with some old friends and family, which is what was really nice today. A lot of us family were there, and it was just nice to see people. Because we don't always get to see each other. We all have our own lives. So just to be able to link up and meet up was great. All right, let me go ahead and share this video while you guys go ahead and get situated and hop on. I know a lot of you might be out just enjoying yourselves. For those of you who watch later, which a lot of you do, I appreciate it. Thank you for that as well. But for those of you who are watching live now, just give me a moment to share this video to my group. And then we can get into the conversation. Okay, that's done. Okay. So yeah, so if you guys aren't, I hope that many of us are, we talked about it last week, the blackout, again, effective now through December 2nd. And I want to just, give you guys some, perspective on what some people are saying and what they're thinking about it. So during this blackout, and again, this is us letting our dollars speak for us. That's what it's all about. And so that is the whole intention of it, not to punish anybody, from enjoying themselves and splurging on their loved ones, but redirecting our money to businesses that, appreciate us, don't exclude us, and we don't have to ask or beg them to acknowledge us and respect our money. That's what it's about. So just to give you some perspective, I think I want to start off with I consider a little levity. You guys, I'm sure, are all familiar with this lady, Jennifer Lewis. Most of you may know her from Blackish, but she always has a good song to sing. So this is her perspective on the blackout, and what she's encouraging us to do here in the United States.
Hey, is everybody on track? Because this Friday ain't black. Because we ain't buying shit. We ain't buying shit. Well, I stand up and never quit. We ain't buying shit. From the 25th of November to the 5th of December. Remember, we ain't buying shit. We ain't buying shit. This Friday ain't black. Cause we got each other's back. We ain't buying shit. We ain't buying shit. We ain't buying. We ain't buying. We ain't buying shit.
What she said. How many of you guys are not buying shit? Okay. Again, if we must, and if we feel the urge, then we should spend our monies with small businesses. Again, steering away from corporate, publicly traded companies, big box companies, just for a week. She said to the 5th. So, even a little bit longer for some of us, but just for a week, and again, this is just building muscle memory, right? So that we can know, for those of us who are still going to go back to those stores, at least we will know where we can go if we need to go there, right? So we don't have to go, oh, I don't know any of these businesses. If you start searching now and learning about these businesses, and of course you can, it'll be easy to remember. I think, it's a good look. I think, it takes a lot of training in practice. Again, we did our thing with Target. We're continuing to do our thing with Target. I know there's still a lot of people who still shop there and shop at other places, but again, excluding places like Amazon and Home Depot, Target, publicly traded companies, those types of companies, just for now, just to let our money speak for us, I think is important. So I encourage you guys to do that and just take it into consideration. Do something different. Try something different. The difference between a moment and a movement is sacrifice. And sometimes that's what it takes. It may not be comfortable, it may not be convenient, but we have the power. The majority, we are the majority. The 1 to 10% are the minority. We are the majority. And we have to remember that we control how wealthy these people can get based on our consumerism. So what we're buying. So just keep that in mind. And I mentioned a whole lot of businesses, and I'll mention them again throughout the show. But I just want to reiterate that. Then I'll have another clip that kind of breaks down what Black Friday is, and what it should mean to us, and why we are, putting ourselves out of it. Okay. This is actually a lady I just started following. She's all over IG. She has a big following. I want to say her name is the Ashley the Veronese, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But she does some great clips on history, just breaking down American history and a lot of things that we question or we have interest in. She breaks it down in layman's terms in short clips. So this is something she's sharing in reference to the blackout. I call it a boycott or a boycott. So there's different terms used. I think the popular term right now for this particular is the blackout. But here's what her perspective on this as well.
From November 25th, 2025, this year, to December 2nd, they're calling it a mass blackout. Not a march, not a protest, no science necessary. It's 1 week where we pull our dollars out of the system and see what happens when the economy feels the weight of our absence. Because we've marched, we've begged, most of us voted the right way. And now we're just going to sit back and test the one thing this country truly worships: money. See, this isn't the first time we've tried this, right? Economic boycotts have always been the heartbeat of real change. From Montgomery to Operation Breadbasket. When the buses lost money, segregation fell. When companies realized ignoring Black consumers meant losing profit, they started hiring, promoting, and pandering. History has already shown us that pulling our dollars hits harder than any speech, any march, any protest ever could. The timing isn't random. Black Friday is the biggest spending weekend in America. Billions get poured into corporations that barely reinvest in the communities that made them rich in the first place. Mm-hmm. So from November 25th to December 2nd, the goal is simple, okay? Buy nothing that doesn't circulate back into us. You hear me? Support small, support local, support Black. Because when we withhold our dollars, we remind this country that we're not just consumers. We are the economy. So yeah, the mass blackout isn't about canceling Christmas or skipping joy. It's about shifting power and realizing that every dollar that we spend is a vote for the world that we live in. They've ignored our voices. They've ignored our pain. Let's see if they ignore our absence. We're not asking anymore. We are shutting this shit down. Okay? No spending. If you do need something, make sure you go to farmers market, support small businesses. There's a ton of places that you can go to make sure you support the right people, not corporations. We are done. We're done.
We're done. We are done. We should be done. Some of us are. We should be. We should be tired. There was a quote by Fannie Lou Hamer that said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. When you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, then you have to do something about it. She said, you can pray until you faint, but God is not going to just put it up on your lap. You got to get up and do something. If you want to see change, you have to make change. You have to be the change that you want to see. And again, I'll continue to reiterate that I know it's difficult, that it's challenging, but it's necessary sacrifices that we have to make. I was talking last week, mentioning a lot of the Black businesses. I'll post some more of them again now. That we could support the Black Farmers Indexes, where you can find a lot of information on where to get some whole foods and support a Black farmer. There's lots of other businesses, small businesses. Digitalgreenbook.org is a place you can go to learn. Buyfromablackman.com. I mentioned buy from a Black woman last week, but there's also a buyfromablackman.com website. Shop Black. Fugi bags is Fugi bags. Carl Kanai still around too, if you guys like his fashion. Is a back and lather company. There's shopredbag.com. And I was listening to a clip, and they use this as an Amazon alternative. So this is where you can go instead of Amazon. It's called shopredbag.com. Or Urban Intellectual, you can go get a lot of history information, cards, books, and things of that nature. Buyblack.org, Shop Black, Naspora, I talked about them. You can go get your laundry detergent and other household goods, and a whole lot of other things you can get from these websites as well. Calabash Tea is one I want to mention. I think it's based in DC, if not right outside of Maryland, but I think it's based in DC. So I would encourage you guys to go to Calabash Tea, that's CALABASH, all organic. She even has remedies that she brought from her background, from her grandmother, and things of that nature, on how to, protect yourself with colds, high blood pressure, anything you can think of, menopause, just prostrate, different teas and remedies that you can put together. She'll give you the recipes you can order online. It's a Black-owned business, small business, where you can, do some natural things to help maintain good health. So that's something to consider as well. So, I just wanted to reiterate that. And before we move along, because I do want to get into this conversation about spanking. So I did invite a guest, just so you guys know, heads up, but I got ghosted, y'all. Anyway, I'm just going to look, tell the truth, shame the devil. But anyways, I hope that guest that was expected as well, that nothing bad happened or anything. But yeah, so I'll be having a conversation with you, and we'll continue. It'll be a series, so we won't get too in depth about spanking, but I do want to just open our minds and just open ourselves up to just the thought, and just thinking of things differently for those who don't, who have one perspective. Sometimes just having an open dialogue can help to give us an understanding. We're all here, we all have our perspectives, and so I just want to use this platform to share our perspectives, and maybe help someone make a good decision, change their mind about a bad decision. And so that's what I want to do. So we're going to get into that too. Before we move along, speaking of the blackouts, Let me see. I think I have one last clip, and this is from a pastor. He is Otis Moss the third. I know a lot of you may be familiar with him. Pastor Otis Moss is right out of the South Side of Chicago at the Trinity United Church, and he's also getting into the conversation. And this is an excerpt from his sermon, and I think it's called wax paper and brown bags. So I gotta go in and listen to the whole thing because I'm just intrigued by the whole title, wax paper and brown bags. But he had something to say as well, as he's encouraging us all to put our money where our mouth is, and withhold our money from these big businesses that don't respect our consumerism.
November 25th, we're going to have a mass blackout and boycott. And we're going to undercut the Roman system. They're going to wonder how come we don't have the same level of profits anymore. You need to make sure that you are using businesses that are created and founded in our community, that are local. Don't use the system of Rome. Make sure that we multiply what we have. That is a brown bag blessing. Passing on what you have to somebody else. November 25th.
Through December 2nd, y'all. And again, that is, Otis Moss III. And so, listen, many of us are on boards from different walks of life. You know what I'm saying? And we are supporting this movement. So I just want to let you guys know that we're out here. We are out here supporting each other and trying to get a message out there. Unfortunately, I was just reading a post from someone I follow from watcher.gr. I'm not familiar with them particularly, but they posted just in online US Black Friday sales reached a record 11.8 billion, and it's up from 9.1% from last year. So I don't know how they're getting these numbers so fast, but they're getting them, from people online purchasing. So a lot of people really don't care. And if they do care, they're lazy, or maybe they just, I don't want to be here to wag my finger because, listen, it's very tempting. I see some good stuff that, I want to buy, but I don't need it. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it's a good deal. And a lot of the stuff you guys have to remember is manufactured for this. So you think you're getting a good deal, right? But they actually create things with lesser quality. You're not getting the exact same product most of the time. You're not getting the exact same product that you would buy outside of these holidays. You're getting a product that is manufactured specifically to entice buyers because they know people are out buying. They want to get gifts for Christmas. A lot of people don't even talk about Jesus or celebrate Jesus, but on Jesus' birthday, allegedly, reportedly, they will be giving gifts to their family members and friends. A lot of people are going to be putting a lot of things on their credit cards and paying 27 plus interest rates because they're not paying it off by the due date, all in the name of giving gifts in Jesus, I guess, Christianity, Christmas. So guess who's winning? Guess who comes out on top? Because for us as a consumer, we're stuck with debt because, again, a lot of people are using credit cards. They're not putting money to the side and saving and, directing that money specifically to be spent for purchasing. They're frivolous spending for a lot of us. And you're going into debt in the new year. So the corporations, these big box corporations, these publicly traded companies, places that discriminate against people of color, immigrants and things of that nature are cashing in on our need to spend. And so, you don't have to spend, you guys. There's other ways to show your love. Hug somebody, go hug them, spend some time with them, go, walk and talk with them, have coffee with them or a cocktail. I mean, there's so many different ways to show your love and affection. It doesn't always have to be materialism. And so, just keep that in mind. You're trying to talk yourself out of, spoiling your babies. A lot of kids that are getting gifts this year got everything already and they don't really play with the stuff. I stopped Christmas mainly because when my child was, I think he was 2 at the time. And I decorated a beautiful tree, put beautiful bows on it, got him, remote control cars, all of the little cute things I thought of that I didn't get during the holiday season. So I wasn't really into it anyway, but I wasn't going to take that away from him. But anyways, we get up early and we sit, I would get him up to open the gifts. And he just sat there and played with the paper. So all that money I had spent to amuse him, I could have just bought wrapping paper and let him just crinkle with it, because that's what he played with. And that taught me a lesson. Like, you don't have to go with the majority. You don't have to follow what everybody else is doing, especially when you realize that It's only a perception. When you see things on TV, you think, oh, this is what I gotta have. I gotta have this type of house. I gotta have this type of car. I gotta have this type of relationship. But most of it is a facade. People are just faking the funk and fronting because, hey, they want to look successful, not necessarily be successful, but appear to be. And that's what a lot of people are doing. And so, don't try to impress these people, because it's another thing that I always reminded my son, even as a child, when it came to trying to impress other people, yes, you want to honor your mother and parents. You don't want to embarrass them or anything. But when it comes to impressing other people, ask yourself this: which one of those people are going to stand in line if it's your time to go and take your place? Which one of them? And I can only assure him it would be one. I can't speak for anybody else, and that would be me as his mother. So if those people aren't willing to lay down for you, why are you so interested in impressing them? Are they going to help you pay your bills? When times get hard, are they going to look out for you? Are these people really that important? So do you really need to go out and buy all of these things if that's what it takes to get people's love and interest? Shame. It's a shame. It's a shame that that's the world that some of us are living in. It really is. So I just want to keep that on your mind, because you still have time not to buy. If you did, you can stop now until December 5th, at least, or December 2nd, depending on who you listen to. Jennifer Lewis, December 5th. For the mass majority, it's December 2nd. But again, you're building muscle memory, and then you get that practice, right? And before we close out the month, I just wanted to mention National Diabetes Month, because it is a big deal, especially in the Black community and for people of color. We have high rates of diabetes. And so it's important that, for those who may not have it, type 1 you're born with. There's nothing you can really do about that besides make sure you're maintaining your health by taking your medicines, seeing your doctor regularly, trying to maintain your A1C levels and things of that nature. But for type 2 diabetes, it's developed. It's developed based on our eating habits, on our exercise habits, the things that we do to our bodies. Just like driving a car or just wear and tear on anything, after a while it's going to break down, or it's going to cause something else to happen, right? And so that's what happens with your body when you put a lot of processed foods in it. You eat a lot of sugar, and sugar isn't just like white sugar, CNH, pure cane sugar. It's not just sugar as we know it. Sugar is bread, white bread in particular. If you're going to eat bread, sourdough is a good alternative. Sugar is white potatoes. Sugar is pasta. All of those things convert into your body as sugar. So you may say, well, I don't eat a lot of sugar. I don't drink a lot of sugary drinks, but you eat pasta, you eat bread. You have to take all of those things into consideration. You have to exercise. Alcohol can affect that and things of that nature. And eating fatty foods, a lot of fried foods and things of that nature. So in order to prevent yourself from getting diabetes, it is strongly encouraged that you have your regular physicals once a year. Go see your doctor. They're going to take your blood and they're going to tell you how you're doing. So you want to get an A1C test. You want to make sure that your levels are good. You don't have you have average glucose levels and not blood glucose levels, and not too much going on there. And then also, if you're already diabetic, you still want to monitor and maintain it so that you can get it down, right? There are devices now you can even track that, and also you can maintain good, healthy blood pressure, right? That's another thing you can do to prevent getting diabetes, because one thing leads to another. So you want to check your blood pressure regularly. You can go to any, what do you call it? These little drugstores, and you can use their machines, or you can order one, from one of the Black businesses that they say mimic Amazon. And then you want to also check your cholesterol. Remember, we don't, you're getting too much fat, fried food, oils in your system, bad oils that could be bad for you. There is such thing as good cholesterol too, you guys, but you want to make sure you are checking your ABCs for good health and maintaining or preventing diabetes. The ABCs, again, is A1C, blood pressure, and cholesterol. Okay. And just speaking of diabetes and food, listen, it's crazy because I just had an epiphany one day. I was walking in a grocery store and I walked down the aisle and I was like, this is the fake food aisle. Like everything on the aisle was packaged, right? Everything we preserve, we can it, we package it. I'm trying to quote Nas. Anyways, but you got chips, it's all fake food though. It's all processed food. It's not like it grew up out of the ground and these ingredients were put together. These are GMOs, chemically modified flavors created to mimic actual things that God put on the planet for us to eat. So it's fake foods in the cans, in the chips, in the everything that's packaged on these shelves has a fake ingredient in it. And I was like, this is the fake food aisle. This is the stuff we actually put in our bodies. And once it enters our bodies is like, what is this? And whatever it recognizes it as, then that's how it reacts to it. And in some instances, I love to use this example because this is just one I always remember. Even when I talk about antibacterial soaps, I remember listening to a doctor, and he was explaining how, men may suffer from lower testosterone levels prematurely in some cases because they may be washing their hands a lot, specifically doctors, with a antibacterial soap. Well, antibacterial, when it enters the body recognizes it as testosterone. And so it thinks you have what it needs. And so you're not getting that level of testosterone. So if you're starting to feel fatigue and not feeling like yourself, but you shower, you wash your hands regularly, you eat healthy, it could be because you're getting too much antibacterial in your system. And again, it's recognized as testosterone in your body. And so that is what's, depleting your testosterone because your body's not getting enough, because it's not telling you need it. And who knows how that shows up on blood tests too, right? But that's what fake food does, right? All of this stuff, sugar is cancer. I learned this from Ananda Lewis, rest in heaven. She passed away from breast cancer. But she was saying how when you go get tested for cancer, they inject your body with sugar because cancer runs to sugar. I want to run to you like Whitney Houston on the Bodyguard. That's how I hear the music playing when the sugar come in the body and the cancer go. I want to run to you. I'm not going to sing it. I will not hurt your ears. But y'all know what I'm talking about. That's what the sugar does. So sugar is dangerous. It's dangerous. Too much sugar is dangerous. Natural sugars are better, but sugar can also cause cancer and diabetes can also lead to cancer as well. So closing out the month, I just wanted to remind you all on the Hills. It's funny that it is on the Hills, not National Diabetes Month is on the heels of leaving the month of October where we consumed candy. We bought all this candy and we handed it out to all the kids in the neighborhood. A lot of us ate a lot of it. It was in the workplace. It was everywhere. Okay. Just candy, candy, candy. And then we followed up with this huge feast that included a lot of foods that sit around and complicate ourselves. And so, yeah, ironically, then we talk about diabetes. Maybe we should do it before we get into all this gluttony. But anyway, that I'm just thinking out loud. But yeah. And speaking of food, y'all heard about this Campbell's soup controversy, right? And why do you have to do that right around Thanksgiving, right? How many people don't use like cream of chicken, cream of mushroom? I know a lot of people use soups, Campbell's soups during the cold season. And Campbell's has a lot of other products, not just what says Campbell's. They have different products that aren't listed on the front of the label as Campbell's. There's other products that they buy and sell and they manufacture in the same facilities that they produce their namesake products. And I liken that to appliances now, which I had to learn. I stepped away from Samsung, maybe for electronics outside of kitchen appliances. Samsung cannot get my money because they break easily. It breaks down, and I'm not used to it. I mean, I lived in the projects as a child, and I don't remember our oven breaking. And we've had to replace the igniter on our oven several times. After the third time, we just said, skip it. We're going with a different product. I say all of that to say that Samsung and all these other products, GE, they're all built in the same facility. And I don't know if one has a better quality measure than the other, but it's the same when it comes to a lot of food, such as Campbell's, even with like Great Value, which is a Walmart label, right? They actually just buy from other manufacturers. Some of them, Dell, some of the common names we know, because back in the day, generic, it was just on a white label, right? So now they put pictures on it and make it look more sophisticated, so you're not embarrassed when you pull up with the cheap food in the can. So Great Value is like a generic brand, but they actually buy their food from a lot of their products from other big businesses. So the same with, like I said, appliances. All these things are coming out of the same companies. And Campbell's is not any different in a lot of ways. Campbell's Foods is not any different. I was looking up a lot of the products. Maybe I played a clip, but I can't remember everything off the top of my head. But the controversy is that right around this time, what was it, last week, I think this all came out, that now former vice president, his name is Martin Bally. And he went on a rant. He was recorded by another colleague just going on a rant. I don't know what he was mad about. I didn't really get into the scoop, but there was some beef going on. And so he just said what he had to say. But some of what he said had to do with the Campbell's products, soups and creams of chicken and all of that. And again, he was recorded by another employee. His name was Robert Garza. And they said it was an hour-long rant. So basically, our takeaway, what was important to us, according to what's trending, what social media put out there, is that he was criticizing the quality of the Campbell's products. He stated they were highly processed foods, and they aimed at poor people. And he also made derogatory comments about the ingredients, suggesting that the chicken used in the soup was bio engineered and came from a 3D printer. The heck? Listen, I learn something new every day. I've heard of 3D printer when it came to food, but I never just took the time to even consider that research worthy. Because how do you 3D print food? And then I thought about me walking down an aisle full of fake food. That's how they create it, right? And so he went on this rant, and so it's all over social media now, just putting a damper in people's Thanksgivings, right? Everybody want to cook with it. But the good thing is, and I've said this, even with baking cake, people think it's a whole science. Now, baking a cake, there is a little science. Sometimes you have to put one egg in at a time. The temperature matters if the eggs are cold or hot. Like, there is a science to cooking from scratch on some things. But overall, the same ingredients that are in these products, aside from all the GMOs and the processed things and the fake ingredients, you have in your kitchen cabinet. It's just as simple as looking on the back of the box. You like Cajun seasoning, you can look on the back of the box, and they have obviously all of the things you love: paprika, cayenne pepper, garlic, onion powder, and you can make your own. And then you can exclude that other stuff like the MSG, things like that you don't need. And so the same can be done with these Campbell products and other people who want to feed us fake food, because they would rather produce something dirt cheap and sell it at I would say at a enticing price to the consumer, which a lot of times is poor people that are trying to make their money stretch, and they don't give a damn about your health, because they got investments in pharmaceuticals, they got investments in hospitals, they got investments in waste. So we'll see you on the other end. Laugh now, cry later. Buy this, and when you get sick, we'll charge you on that end too, and we're gonna charge you a lot. And so, in some countries, it's a no-no. The same products that we eat here, like Doritos, you can't use certain ingredients in Doritos in Canada. Okay. So I thought that was interesting, and it made me really think again. It's like reminders, because I already know this stuff is fake food, and I already know what it could do to your body. And I just tell myself some things you just have to do in moderation, and then you can't be lazy. So a lot of what I'm talking about now, we're talking about the boycott, the blackout, and how difficult it is sometimes to make these sacrifices, but also with food, also with our bodies and our health. And it's unfortunate that we've been conditioned for so long to have convenience. We have microwaves now. Nobody wants to put anything on the stove and cook it. Who knows how to pop popcorn on the stove? I'm glad I come from that era. I can survive in the wilderness. These kids coming up today, I don't know how they're going to survive, because they don't, they know how to make a fire. They know how to put two sticks together. So we come from an era where everything is boom, bam, boom, bam, boom at our fingertips. And I get it, but we have to reprogram ourselves. We have to recondition ourselves. It's like unlearning, okay? The miseducation of a lot of us in the United States of America. We have to re-educate ourselves and do right by ourselves, because these people don't give a damn about us. All they love, their Lord and Savior, is the dollar, and we cannot forget that. So I'm reading when he smells some 3D print, like, what the hell? So there's a thing. 3D meat is real. Am I the only one that didn't know that there was a real thing, that 3D meat was a thing? And so 3D meat, or they call it 3D printed meat, is a type of cultured or created meat made using 3D printers and additive manufacturing techniques, along with artificial intelligence and material science. This is what they're putting in your food. So it's not just an animal they take and chop up and do what they do. They're actually printing the food. Who would make something like that up, let alone actually do it? It's the weirdest thing to me. They say one approach involves feeding the printer. I'm talking about a printer, y'all. It's similar to a Xerox copy machine, but this is specifically designed for creating fake meat, okay, which is called 3D meat. So it involves feeding the printer cultured animal cells and are printed into meat-like forms. So you get the shape you want, right? It's just sweet baby Jesus, okay? And then they make it into a consumable material. What makes it consumable? The FDA obviously approves it, but what makes it consumable? Like, you can purchase it, but ingestible, like your body. Like, I don't understand how they decided that it's good. And of course, you have to cook it before you eat the final product. Yeah, this is weird. So that's 3D meat. And then a lot of us are familiar with GMOs, right? Genetically modified organism or bioengineering. So that's another thing. This is what they're talking about in Campbell's Foods. And probably the majority of the things we buy at the grocery store, if you're not getting it from a farmer's market. Um, and listen, I remember my cousin telling me out in Maryland, there's a lot of there's Amish community there. But she said, and look, I'm not tainting some of you Amish folks, and I'm gonna tell the truth and shame the devil. That she was at an event, and I was there. They had some great strawberries and everything. But anyways, she saw these Amish people because they're known for being off the radar, growing their food all natural. So your oranges should be picked from the trees. But she saw them literally pouring the orange juice. Maybe it was Minute Maid, maybe it was another name brand, but it wasn't off the tree orange juice. It was from a big name manufacturer, and then pouring that into their containers. So these people just lying to us all the way around. We just gonna have to grow our own. Look, it's gonna take about 5 years to get your orange tree, your lemon tree, but at least you'll have it, right? And it'll be right on time, because that's when everything gonna hit the fan anyway. I'm just saying.com. Listen, but yeah, so you can't really trust anything. So so bioengineering, genetically modified organism, GMOs, is crazy. So it's basically food that's made by altering the genetic material of a food source. So they mainly do this for crops and fruits, and they do that to achieve better traits we wish to get. So you see these big old fat chickens, you can't tell me there's no GMOs in it, because you're doing this to achieve better results. You want more bang for your buck. So the chickens ain't eating enough. You don't want to feed them enough, and you definitely don't want to feed them enough for the right thing, because they're not designed to be fat pigs. They're designed to be little chickens, right? And so you go and you alter the DNA. To me, that's some devilish, wicked, evil shit. And people that always try to outdo God. It really, really is amazing to me. But that's what it is, right? That they're doing, that they're doing to our food. So that is what they're doing. And again, they're mainly doing this to our fruits and vegetables. And when I first started learning about GMOs or bioengineering is when I learned of a company that actually produced grass seed. And so they had scientists that developed grass seeds that they sold to farmers, mainly because people need different types of grass to grow things, right? And people have different types of luxuries. You have, your natural grasses like Bermuda grass. So for example, Bermuda grass is grass that goes dormant in the winter, very environmentally friendly, especially in hot climates like the one that I live here. Many of us live in Las Vegas. So it's green Bermuda grass, and it don't die. You got to literally dig deep to the roots to get rid of that grass if you're trying to plant new grass, or even just put rocks down, because weeds and grass will grow up through that. But Bermuda grass, again, it has this God-given way of conforming to the seasons. So when it's hot, and there's, during the time that water is available, when it's raining and you have green grass. But when it's cold and whatever the season is, the grass turns yellow. But anyway, so this agricultural seed biotech company created different seeds. So if you like tall growing grass, they had a tall fescue. If you like grass that didn't get so tall, maybe you don't like mowing your lawn, so your grass ain't gonna get too high, they had a short fescue. So there were different type of seeds that they were selling to farmers. So they started this, or they were doing this with grass. And even that's not healthy, right? Because we plant a lot of stuff in the dirt, in the grass. And yeah, so just to give you a little backstory on that. So this is what's in our food. We got 3D meats and we got GMOs. And a lot of this stuff is allowed to go through, even in 3D foods, just so you know. Again, they use printing. They use laser sintering. This is for your meats, for the products that you're ingesting and putting into your beautiful body. These are the things that this is what processing is. When it's called processes, that you have to go in and create whatever it is that you want it to be, whichever you want the outcome to be. So you have these 3D meats, or whatever else they're producing, 3D foods that are, include printing, sintering, selective laser sintering. They use a hot melt and room temperature extrusion. They use inkjet printing. So these meats have inkjet printing on them. Binder jetting, I'm not sure what that is, and multi-print head and multi-material printing. Okay, this is what it's made of, your 3D food that is being produced. And it involves a lot of these ingredients: puree, mashed potatoes. So they put this stuff in it to make it taste or look or have the texture that you want it. Similar to what people do with vegan food, right? You see a lot of people using mushrooms, a lot of mushrooms, potatoes, soy, different products to get a texture and a flavor that mimics meat in a lot of cases, right? Or seafood. And so mashed potatoes, jelly, cheese, frosting, chocolate, sugar, chocolate powder. So all of this is going into this GMO, genetically modified meats, to get this flavor that you want or this food that you're eating. Okay, protein powder. I just learned, or I'm hearing that, because I get the vegan protein powder because I don't want the whey and I don't want products made from animals. But I'm learning, based on what I heard a man say during an interview, that the plant-based is the worst. So you guys can look into that for yourself, but I'm just throwing it out there. And there's other sauces in there like ketchup, pizza hot sauce. All these things are part of the whole makeup of a 3D food. Colored food ink. Okay, this is what's in your food, you guys. This is what you're ingesting. This is what you're scrambling at the store to buy out of these cans, out of these packages, off the fake food aisle, and put it into your precious body. And then we're sitting on the side of our loved ones in the hospital room because they're suffering from preventable conditions. And a lot of it has to do with poverty. So I was glad that this leaked, this ex-VP of Campbell Soup. It leaked because it is true. He knows this is for poor people, because a lot of products that are cheaply made are usually, not all, because you got products like Jordans and Louis Vuitton that don't cost that much to make. I remember Jordans back in the day, they said it cost $4 to make a pair of Air Jordans. And what are they selling for? Over hundreds of dollars, right? But in most cases, they make a product that is cheap for them to make, and then they sell it to you for a reasonable price. And that's usually what poor people go for, because you're trying to make your dollar stretch. But a lot of people who have good incomes still do not, eat healthy. They eat out of convenience, or they eat out of what they like, what they want to eat. Just because you're rich don't mean, and you have access to a dietitian, you have access to a physical trainer or a chef, doesn't mean that you're going to eat properly. So don't get that confused. I hear a lot of people say, oh, rich people, they can look a certain way. Yeah, they can go and get what do you call it? Surgery. They can go get alterations. They may have the money to do that. But yeah, when it comes to eating healthy, it's a mental thing more than a money thing for the most part. It is a money thing. I'm not going to take that away. But yeah, there's, even with broth, you guys, because that's part of the lineup of a Campbell Soup and other people who include GMOs and 3D meats. You can make a broth on your own. A lot of times when we're cutting up our bell peppers and onions, the pieces we don't want, we throw to the side. I learned this from Heather B, who loves to cook. If you guys are on HB, y'all know her. She's on co-host with Sway in the morning. She used to have a show on Sirius XM as well. But she would show, she gave a recipe for broth. So all that extra stuff we chop up that we throw out, the carrots and all that stuff on the side that we don't want in our food because they don't look as pretty, you put that to the side. Maybe you freeze it. But all in all, you take all of that leftover onion and stuff celery that you would normally throw away, wash it and boil it. Boil it in water. And then you can add extra seasoning. You can add your onion powder, garlic powder, whatnot. And then you can store it. And then if you, later on when you decide to cook, you have your broth ready available, and you can put the amount of salt you want in there, and you know what the ingredients are, which don't include 3D meats and GMOs. Also, even with the cream of chicken, that's just flour or heavy cream. So if you got flour in your house and some water, you can use some bouillon crudes, or you can use your broth from your leftover vegetables that you were going to toss out because you didn't want to put them in your food, and you can boil them and put that in there too. So there's ways around it. Again, after you boil the chicken, you can have your chicken broth, right? You can boil a chicken and save that broth. And then if you don't want to use the chicken right away, you can freeze it, or you can, shred it up and make enchiladas, put it in a soup, make a pasta salad, chicken salad. There's different things you can do. You just have to be willing and intentional about doing it. We just got to not be lazy, and we might have to meal prep. We might not have the time at the time to do it, but if we do it ahead of time while we're cooking and chopping up our vegetables and just making a mental note to freeze it or boil it while we're in the kitchen, which is what I like to do. But I'm gonna be honest, y'all, I forget the stuff is in there sometimes. And you got to date the stuff, because I forget to date stuff, and so then I have to throw it away because my sweetie, I struggle with throwing food away. Let me just tell you, I think it has a lot to do with my upbringing coming from humble beginnings, it's hard to throw things away. So I will freeze something in a minute. And a lot of times we come back to it, but sometimes we don't. Shout out to E. Carice, who's joining me in the chat. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Yeah, so it happens. And we can make it happen mainly by just looking out for ourselves. So those GMOs, you guys remember also GMOs are now in our genetically modified fish, right? Just recently, the FDA approved Aqua Advantage bioengineered salmon. Okay, we all love salmon. So nowadays you have to go get wild caught salmon, because the farm raised salmon now, they had an analysis by the Federal Food and Drug Administration. And under the cosmetic acids, these genetics of farm fish has been changed to make it grow faster than normal. And it's okay. So they can add GMOs, they can go in and modify. So basically, they're the first bioengineered animal that is approved for human consumption. And yeah, that doesn't mean we're not going to have, or who's to say they haven't, because it seems like they don't disclose everything. I don't trust these people, okay? Because even when you look at a package, you get a Tyson bag of chicken and it doesn't say chicken breast. It says white meat. Who am I, stupid? I'm not stupid. I might have been born at night, but not last night. I know that you're leaving something out. You're getting around telling me what you're really feeding me, which is probably dark meat that you died. How do I know? If it does not say chicken breast, what am I supposed to expect this is when you say white meat? What part of the meat is white? I don't know, but that's how they get around stuff, by lying to us and tricking us. This is what they do. And so this is another thing. So yeah, wild caught if you can, because it's coming. They're going to start doing this. They're already working on it. Scientists are working on this, on pigs, on chickens, on cows. Yeah, and they're trying to alter the genes, mainly in favor, they say, of better resistance to diseases. So they're doing all of this so that our crops and our animals are resistant to the pesticides that they're feeding them and the diseases that may spread. So this is all about their monetary outcome, their overhead. It's not about, because we know when these chickens get the bird flu, they got to get rid of all that livestock. So if they create something that makes them, what do we call it, immune to it, that doesn't mean our bodies are not going to recognize it and be like, nah, son, they set tripping. They didn't put something in our body. I'm about to take her out of this world, because this ain't living. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what the body is doing with all of that, but their animals still live, their products still live. They can still put that product on the shelf because they created a way to where these diseases don't impact the life or whatever elements come with that. Crazy. And they're approving this here in the United States. Wow. Anyway, there's a way to scan your food. There is a you can some food now even has QR codes on it, so you can just easily just put your phone up to the QR code on the packaging. But there are apps you can use if you're trying to see what's in your foods. One I really like is called Yucca. That's Yuka, and it scans food and cosmetic products. So you can use this to find out, to analyze what health impacts. They'll tell you what health impacts are associated with the product or the food, including endocrine disruptors or carcinogens, allergens and irritants. A lot of us have allergies now, and things we can't put in our bodies or on our skin. And it's independent and doesn't accept money from these brands to advertise their products. So these products that they're ethical, I would say, because they're letting you know what it is and they're not getting a kickback for it. Also, there's Fooducate. So this is a grading system to show how healthy items are, and it uses public data to share accurate nutrition details. So you have Fooducate, which is an app in Yucca. There's also Food Scanner, and this just gives you the ingredients, some insights, ingredient analysis, health recommendations. There's also Ingredient Lens. That's another app. And so that's just something to keep in mind. You guys can remember Yucca, which is one I think is, you get two for. You can get your cosmetic product scan and get the details, and you can also get your food scan. And again, they're ethical. They're not taking kickbacks from companies. So that's it. And, again, since we're talking about food before we get into spanking, I don't know how they go together, but we're going to talk about it today. But ketchup, I'm going to give you guys a fun fact. Did you know, first of all, I need to know something. Do you guys refrigerate your ketchup, or do you keep it in the cabinet? I just want to say I put mine in the cabinet, and now I'm wondering, does it expire? Do anybody know how long it lasts? It doesn't say refrigerate. A lot of times you open something that says refrigerate after opening. It doesn't specify. But anyway, just speaking of ketchup, you guys let me know in the chat. How do you store your ketchup? I know some people that don't like ketchup. That is so weird to me. People that don't like macaroni and cheese and ketchup. Yeah, I don't trust them. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. But anyway, so a fun fact is ketchup was sold as medicine, you guys, in the 1830s. In the 1830s, it was used for indigestion. I thought that was weird because the first thing I thought of was tomatoes. Like tomatoes are acidic and can give you heartburn. I mean, whenever I eat pizza, I feel like I need a Pepsi. I don't know what the Pepsi does, but it kind of soothes whatever's going on. Or spaghetti sometimes. And that's why they say you put a pinch of sugar in it, in your spaghetti, in your sauce, your red sauces, so that you cut that acidic element of it. So I thought it was kind of weird that they were selling ketchup as medicine in the early 1800s. But during the 19th century, ketchup was primarily made from tomatoes, but not then. Earlier, it was crafted from ingredients like mushrooms, anchovies, and walnuts. So I don't know what a red came from. Maybe they still use tomatoes. I don't know. Yeah, it got me to thinking, but they really sold it. Now they never said that anybody tested. I don't have no testimonials. I don't have any Yelps or anything to support this, but they actually sold it as a medicine for indigestion mainly and diarrhea, and they swore by curing jaundice. What the hell? Like really? So this was according to Dr. John Cook Burnett, who claimed that the ketchup could treat these ailments. So that was so weird, yeah. But after a while, I guess people got tired of being bamboozled, hoodwinked, led them on, and led astray, and realized that ketchup is just tastes good. That's it. It's not curing you. And so they refined the recipe, and it's more of a tomato base and a balance of sweet and sour, and it is what it is. But anyway, I just thought that was interesting. Just thinking about what we put in our food, you guys. Anybody celebrating a birthday today? I want to give you a shout out. What is Sagittarius? Is it Sagittarius season? Yeah, yeah. I got a few people I like that Sagittarius is. No, y'all good, y'all good. I like Sagittariuses are so adventurous. They are self starters and they're not afraid to try new things and just go out and be alone. Like they will just go away and come back. You're like, where was you? Oh, I went to the moon. Oh, yeah. You didn't tell me. Nah, I ain't tell nobody. That's a Sagittarius for me in a nutshell. But very fun to hang out with. So shout out to the Sagittarius. Yeah, we lost one of the oldest women, and especially from the era of the massacre that happened in Black Wall Street, Greenwood, in Oklahoma, Viola Fletcher. So I just want to give my condolences to her. She passed away November 24th at 111 years old, y'all. At 111 years old. When she was just a kid in 1921, her family were waking in the middle of the night and houses were on fire. They had to leave with the shirt on their back. She didn't even have her doll that she said she carried with her all the time, but they had to leave with the clothes on their backs and because there was a riot. And you guys remember this riot, like most of these riots against the Black community started with a white woman accusing a Black man of something. And in this case, this white woman accused a Black man of raping her on an elevator. Yeah. Go back to critical thinking. Just think about how long an elevator goes and yeah. Anyway, that's what had happened. So the man had his day in court, but the Black people was not allowing him to be hanged, which is what the white people wanted to do based on this white woman saying that he had raped her. And so, yeah, our people wasn't with it. They pulled up with their weapons and they was like, nah, son, that's not going to go down here. And so some altercations happened. And so, the white community, jealous hearted and envious as they are when they see us thriving, unfortunately, that was their excuse to come over into the neighborhoods where we had our own hospitals, libraries, airport, doctors, domestic workers, everything. We had everything we needed to sustain ourselves within that community. They went over and burned it down with the help of the U.S. government that gave them access to planes and bombs. Okay. Thousands of people were reportedly killed. A lot of those people have not been found yet, but they kind of try to downplay it and say it was 300 people, but she survived that. And she said since that day, she still sleeps sitting up because she's always in her mind has to be ready to take off, because that's how traumatizing life can be sometimes, right? And so she said she always slept sitting up. She was also quoted in an article saying, I still see Black men being shot. She said, Black bodies lying in the street. I still see Black businesses being burned. I still hear the screams. Our country may forget this history, but I cannot. She said, I will not. And other survivors do not. And our descendants do not. So this story goes on and they've gone so far. The commission recommended that Greenwood residents and their descendants be compensated. Remember, they took everything from them and then kept it for themselves. So there, people fled their homes. So those homes, who got those homes? Who got those commercial buildings? Who got all of their things when people fled for their lives? Those people, the savage people came in and took all of that. And those who stayed around, sadly, as she explained, she had to go into these houses as a domestic worker and clean the houses of people who had destroyed her home and her community, because she didn't have the education or the resources, I guess, to move away. And so it's just sad. It's really sad. And I'm sure she saw a lot of things that belonged to people that she knew and loved in her community in these homes, you know. But yeah, they refuse to this day. They're still fighting, and they have been continuously refusing to give these people any type of any compensation. And remember, when slavery ended, those who owned slaves were compensated. They got reparations. Okay, when the Haitians fought for their freedom and went on what they like, they to this day still owe the British for their freedom. So don't, for those who want to say, well, that was then and y'all still want money and those people are long gone and we shouldn't, yeah, it's people still paying other people because they free. Okay, so yeah, no, yeah, we're not even going to have that conversation. I'm just going to put that out there. But yeah, that was over 105 years ago, and it's considered one of the most brutal chapters in history. Also, H. Rap Brown, if you guys aren't familiar with him, he died in a prison hospital at the age of 82 after being arrested in 2000. I think he was charged in 2002 of killing a police officer. Just another story similar to when I read about the late Sada Shakur, where he was accused of shooting the police officer. The evidence didn't support it. First, they said he had a shotgun, then they said he had a handgun. No fingerprints, and the Supreme Court would not review his case. So they sentenced him to life in prison in Fulton County. And yeah, he had been there, and his wife said that he was transported in 2014 to a federal hospital prison while suffering from cancer. So maybe that's where he had been since then, fighting cancer. But yeah, he did pass away. And, you know, some notable things, you know, that he's done, when you go look back at the Black Panther Party, he did some phenomenal things. And remember, he was super young. I want to say he was like 20 when he got into the Black Panther movement. He was the chair of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, a powerful civil rights group. And in 1968, he was named the Minister of Justice for the Black Panther Party. Yeah, so he was very heavy-handed in, or he was very outspoken about policing, you know, the heavy-handedness of policing in Black communities. And here's the thing about this, because people will tell you, well, we need more police in the community. But what happens is when more police come into the community, more crime happens. And that's not to say people are committing more crimes. It's to say that they're finding more crimes against people. And that's how you have to look into things, because you can't tell me. I use my city as an example. Remember riding around just on job at a ride along, and when we were in the Northtown area, West area, it wasn't nothing to see a police car. But I know my white coworker, probably this would never even cross his mind. But these are the kind of things as a Black woman and as a Black man we think about, because this is our lived experience. So when I go into the Summerlin area and we're riding around, I didn't see one cop car, not one. You telling me? I heard they got the best drugs at these in their neighborhood. That's where all the good drugs at, because that's where the people with the money that can buy the good stuff. So you telling me there's no crime over here? And so, you know, the point I'm making is they bring these police into our communities and they just sit around and profile us. Oh, there's a tag missing. Oh, he has an air freshener hanging from the windshield. You know, and they just ticket us for everything. And they don't mess with these people in these white communities, or maybe I would call them suburban communities or whatnot, because they know those people probably have judges in their family, lawyers in their family, people who can fight this system. You know, this is low hanging fruit to them to go into places like North Las Vegas or West Las Vegas here where I live. And so, yeah, he wasn't with it, and I get it. And we're supposed to speak out. And he went on to say that violence in America is American. It's as American as cherry pie. Say it ain't. The whole structure, the whole formation of what we know as America today was built off of violence. Nothing has changed except who they try to blame, right? So yeah, he went on to say, this is H. Rap Brown I'm talking about, that violence is a part of American culture. This was during a 1967 conference where he said, America taught the Black people to be violent. We will use that violence to rid ourselves of oppression if necessary. We will be free by any means necessary. Okay. When I read that quote, it kind of is going to be, I think, a segue into what we're going to talk about just briefly. I just really want to touch the surface on the book, Spare the Kids. Why Whooping Children Won't Save Black America, because I'm still reading chapter by chapter and I wanted to bring someone on, different people each time. So if you're interested in talking about spanking, and if you think it's an American culture, or if you think that it's necessary, or why it is, or just your perspective on it, no judgment. I just want to hear your perspective on it. And if you're interested in reading the book, and we can kind of talk about it and have a dialogue about what the author is saying about whooping it. Please let me know, because that was my intentions today, because the person I was bringing on, I knew hadn't started reading the book yet, and that's where I wanted to start, get her perception on whooping before she had been influenced by someone else's perception. And so that's why I'm going to just merely just touch the surface and just leave a little breadcrumb of food for thought. But reading that quote again, he said, violence is part of America's culture. And he said, America taught the Black people to be violent. We will use that violence to rid ourselves of oppression if necessary. We will be free by any means necessary. So in this book, Spare the Kids, again, author Stacey Patton, she touches on how, this was passed down to us. Violence, beating, and abuse was part of being enslaved, right? That is how they were able to get us subdued and get us to submit. There's another reason why I don't like that word, submit. But this is what happens. And so they were using, basically what I read when I was reading this, what I interpreted is, we're using their violence against them. And in some instances, we may be using what we were taught, their violence, against our kids. And for many of us, we say we use this to keep our kids from getting in the system. And one of the questions I wanted to ask in relation to that is, how is that working out? Most people I know that have been spanked will tell you that, it worked out for me. It kept me on a straight and narrow. Some people say it was a bit much. A lot of stuff I got punished for, I should not have been punished for, or hit for, because there's a difference. And I like the word she uses. She uses hit. She doesn't say spank or discipline. She says hit, beat. She uses the specific detail of what happens to the child in that instance. And so I just really made me marinate on what H. Rap Brown had to say when we talked about American violence. And is whooping and part of the American way? Is it part of the American violence? She said, the only empathy I have for adults who hit children comes from the fact that many of them are doing the only thing they know to do. And it's interesting. She talks about, again, she goes into how slavery was what kept us in line. And so even during slavery, even though we were being beat, we still beat our kids to try to keep them in line so that they wouldn't get it as bad, from the slave master, the slave owner. And I just thought, that's a food for thought. And it just made me want to go research more to learn what other cultures outside of the United States hit their kids. And I want to focus on that term. And listen, I use corporal punishment. I got spankings as a child. I mean, I don't in any way think that I was abused or beat. I don't think it was, in my case, necessary per se. It didn't change my perspective on what I was doing. Maybe for some it does. Some people have kids where you can talk to them and that's enough. They don't want to disappoint you. So the minute you tell them I'm disappointed, then the tears well up and they feel really sad and bad. And then you have the kids where you whoop them and then you say you whip them or you hit them, and they do it again. So how's that working out? Like, how many hits does it take before you move on to another thing and then you start hitting them for that? And again, this isn't any type of I'm not trying to admonish anyone, or again, it's a no judgment zone. It's just a thoughtful conversation, just a different way to look at situations, right? To look at situations and then wonder, is this just something we've gotten used to? If you've been paying attention, I've talked about how we've just been conditioned all along in so many different ways. In consumerism, we've been conditioned by getting things quick. We need it quick, fast, in a hurry. We live in a microwave era. Everything, we've been conditioned to a certain level that it's hard to undo that. The miseducation of us to unlearn it's a hard thing to undo, because it takes sacrifice, it takes discipline, it takes you being intentional. And so thinking about whooping is another thing. There was what prompted me to start going back into this book, because I've had it forever. And a lot of what I've learned about this book has been through interviews, which was the reason why I bought the book, seeing her on different interviews where she discussed hitting kids. And one of the things she also mentioned, aside from this just being something from tradition here in the United States, from being enslaved, we just carried on a violent tradition and brought it to our kids, and we haven't gotten away from it. Some of us think it's effective, and so some of us still use it. But also, she mentioned how it sexualizes our kids, and so that really kind of turned up my antenna. Like, what you mean? And so she was saying how a lot of us hit our kids on the butt, and if you think about it, she says when you're hitting someone on the butt, blood transfers to that sexual organ. Now, I'm not saying the kid gets turned on or the parent gets turned on, but that sensation is there. So they may not be able to acknowledge it or recognize it, but she explains scientifically how that sexualizes a child. And so did we hit them somewhere else on the hand? And so I'm getting into the book, and I'll see what she has to say about other places that you hit a child. But I thought that was interesting too. And then I made sense out of that, because I know a lot of people as adults in the bedroom, when the lights get low, some people like to get smacked on the butt, and you probably didn't even realize that it was turning you on. And you just thought it was just some fun thing to do because you saw it on a sex videotape, but it really does bring more arousal to the situation, is what I'm trying to get to. So yeah, that's H. Rap Brown. And yeah, another interesting thing too about him is after, with all of this, even there was a riot that took place. There was a law created because of him, making it illegal to incite a riot. If you guys don't remember that, it's the H. Rap Brown Anti-Riot Act. And it's crazy. The Black Panthers were the cause for a lot of rules to be made. If you don't notice, once Black people start doing certain things, they go, oh, no, we can't have that. We got to make a law. We got to make a law. And it's just that simple. And that's why it's important to be civically engaged, because you have people in positions that can veto these bills, not approve these bills, or to vote against it, But they made a law because they said he incited a riot. But remember, we get accused of being in a gang when it's just 3 or more. If there's 4 or more of us, we're considered a gang. If we're yelling and peacefully protesting, that's considered a riot. When we have people that are come in who are not part of us, and they create things where they go and start throwing rocks and breaking windows, they associate that with us and they call it a riot. So they actually created a law to because of the Black Panther movement, particularly because H. Rap Brown was the head of forming committees and showing people how to peacefully protest against police brutality and other things that were happening. Similar to what happened with the Black Panthers with open carry in California. The open carry law was signed in by, at the time, of Governor Reagan, who ended up being our president. That man. But yeah, so they made a law after they saw that, oh, we got enough sense. We got access to guns too. We'll walk around with guns. Now, oh, we need a law because Black people got guns. You see what I'm saying? And so that's what had happened. So a lot of people who have done, things to try to make the world better, feeding the hungry, creating resources that were not available to us due to discrimination, found themselves on the most wanted FBI list and were singled out and accused of the worst crime possible, so that the public can judge them and call them out. And yeah, I think that's what happened with him. Just reading the story, you can learn more about that. Yeah, more fun facts. Yeah, did you guys know that bears don't urinate while they're hibernating? I think that's interesting. And the yo-yo was originally a weapon. How does that work? You just yeah. And Bangkok is the most visited city in the world, attracting over 22 million international visitors annually. That is interesting to me. That's very interesting, because I don't know too many people who have been there. Yeah, surpassing cities like Paris and London. But yeah, I would like to go there, maybe. I don't know. And also, humans shed around 200 million skill cells every hour. Now that's weird. How you count skin cells though? You know what I'm saying? People just be making stuff up sometimes, I think. I don't know. I just think that's weird. But back into the topic of spanking, my opening rant was a quote from the book. So that wasn't my particular thought. I just thought it was an interesting thing, how she likened the fact that when adults, it's considered a crime to hit an adult. Like, you can't go and just hit an adult. It's, you can get charged, you can be jailed, in prisons, even though it's for the most part not what's the term I'm looking for? It's not practiced as far as holding people accountable. It is unlawful for corporal punishment in prison, but we know it happens. They lock them in a room, strip them down and beat them down and do whatever they want to and get away with it. I've heard the stories, and sadly, but there's laws. There's laws against hitting another person. You can be held accountable for hitting another person as well, in the civilian world, or if you're locked up. But when it comes to kids, the law is a little bendable. It says you can hit them, but there's a way. There's a way you got to do it. Like Bernie Mac said, you got to get them in the stomach so you can't see any bruises. And I know that's kind of, but he said it. Sometimes that's why I like comedy, because you can laugh about stuff even when it's the truth, when it's serious. But basically, that's what I'm reading. Basically, when it comes to kids, they're not really protected. And of course, dogs, you hit a dog, that's cruelty. And I get it. I don't think it's nice to hit an animal. I don't see why we would want to do that unless it was self-defense to protect yourself, or another person. But sometimes, you got to handle your business, right? But just to go around hitting people, yeah, it should be unlawful to just go around and hit people, because some people need rules in order to follow, to respect other people's personal space. But why isn't that the same for kids? Just a critical thought. Like, why don't you think it's the same for kids? Why is it okay? Anybody got anything to say? Anybody have any pushback or feedback in reference to that? So if you're listening later, please share your thoughts in the comments. I talk to people all the time who have very strong opinions about a lot of things that I discuss here. And they want to talk to me after the show. Yeah, I pull it up to have a conversation with you right now, though. You know what I'm saying? And then it goes on. You think about the way in which kids are being hit. I know some people said that they were hit with an extension cord, and I'm thinking in my mind, like, that's how are you showing love? And I'm not, again, it's no judgment, but why would you want to do that to your child? Why would you want to hurt them like that? Like, and if that's what you think, I'm taking it to this level because the belt didn't work, the smack didn't work, the yell didn't work, the restriction didn't work. Is the extension cord going to work? And what is your end goal? Are you there to have your children fear you, respect you? What is the end goal? Just to stop them from doing it? Because if you're continuing having to reprimand them for something that they continue to do, then maybe spanking isn't really working, is all I'm saying.com. Yeah. So, if it's so effective, and again, this is just food for thought, because, sometimes I think to myself, some kids need a spanking. And again, it sparked, since I got off that, it did this whole idea of me having a series, which I'll talk more about, and we'll get more in depth. And it'll be more of a in-depth conversation. But what really sparked me to have this conversation, I was looking at a Facebook post, and it was a mother, and she looked like a white mother, white son, I'm not sure. But she was beating a child. I learned later this is a teenage child. And it was like, oh, she hit him 15 times for over 8 minutes or something. I'm making up the numbers, but it was literally like in the teens as far as the number of hits. And the time frame was a very short amount of time. So I'm thinking, when you getting spanked, it's like, bow, 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 bow. And so, people's perspectives are different. To me, that's just how whipping flow. It's like, da, 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 da. For some people, maybe it's just 1, 2. But they were like, oh, this is abuse. This is an abomination. So I'm reading the comments, and some people were like, oh, this lady, she needs to be in jail. And then others were saying, that's what's wrong with kids today. They're not getting whooped. They're not getting hit enough. They're not getting beat enough. That's what's wrong with these kids. When I grew up, da, da, da. Has the crime rate gone up or down? And is that affected by whoopings? A lot of kids that end up in the foster care system are kids who are abused by their parents. They were hit by their parents. And then they go into a system where they're abused by the people that are there. It might be other kids, it might be other adults, or they're drugged, or just not treated with love. They go into these homes, and I know the stories. I hear the stories. They're not all bad, but a lot of them are. And I feel very sad for some of these kids who have to go into the foster care system. But keep that in mind, that a lot of these kids that go into the foster care system is because they're being hit inappropriately by their parents. And so what does that say? And what are we teaching society? Is that how you maintain control? Because I don't think it's necessarily showing love, even though that may be our intentions, right? We say things maybe harshly out of love. We do things maybe aggressively out of love, because we only know what we know. And if I imagine if we know better, we'll do better. Or if there is another way, we would try it, right? Now, we can tease and jokingly talk about it. Even in the book, Stacey Patton, the author of Spare the Kids, she mentions that the percentage rate of whoopings amongst white parents versus black parents is not that big of a difference. It's not like we whoop our kids more. I know that's the running term that black people hit their kids more than white family, but that's not really the case. But the thing about it is the effectiveness. Like what is the outcome? What are we getting out of it? What are we getting out of it? Hitting the kids. Um, you know, she quoted Michelle Alexander, who said that there were more black men incarcerated. This was in 2010, as this quote was written, than who were that incarcerated in 2010 that were enslaved in 1850. So, we took this tradition on, and we've continued on with this tradition of hitting our kids. And here we have more kids incarcerated. So does violence beget violence? And what's too much? When is it too much? It's something to think about. Another thing, once we get further into the book, she is going to talk about different ways. That was a point I was kind of trying to make. I lost my train of thought for a moment, but one of the other points was that, as black people, when I was comparing the fact that, we don't whoop our kids at a higher rate than white parents, we just know of it. A lot of the things that we compare ourselves to, it's based on, who we're around. So we can only base it on that if we're not going to read and doing the research. But we don't necessarily do timeout, right? But we can talk to our kids. We tease the white community with doing that timeout stuff, but that was another thing I was seeing in the comment. Yeah, they want to give them timeout and no video games. And some of that stuff works. But maybe just talking to our kids and asking them why they did it and having them have a critical thought moment, having a critical conversation and talking about it so they can iron it out. It's kind of like home therapy, right? Like, well, why do you keep doing that? I've told you several times not to lie to me, but you continue to do it. Why do you keep sneaking out? I've told you several times, and explaining to them, I get worried. I'm scared something might happen to you. And where would that conversation go? Where would that conversation go? Again, anytime that I was punished or hit as a child, it didn't instill fear in me. It just upset me. And that's it. I was always fearful of consequences and repercussions, but it didn't have to necessarily be getting hit. It could be, again, restriction, punishment, disappointing my parents, or any other outcome, getting caught, whatever it was. It doesn't necessarily, I might get hit. Some people, you can give them an option. I know some people will give their kids an option. Do you want to whoop it or you want restriction? And most, a lot of the kids go for the whooping because that's, couple minutes and you can go back outside and play. I mean, that was back in the day. You go back in your room and get on the video game. That's what's happening right now. So, that's why I wanted to have a conversation, not just to wag the finger at people, but just to talk about American culture. And is this an American culture? Do other cultures practice this? When we were on the continent, were we hitting our kids or were we finding other ways to hold them accountable for their actions? And how did that work out for them? And I think that's the important question more so than anything. And so I'm really, really looking forward to getting into this more. So again, it's going to be a series. I'm just looking to see other things that I wanted to read here. So another thing that I highlighted that she wrote is the reasons Black folks hit their children are supremely complex. Black Americans have been allowed to legally parent their children. Black Americans have been allowed to legally parent their children for only 150 years. That's another food for thought, you guys. Just think about that. There was a time when we would give birth to our babies after carrying them for 9 months and they would be snatched away from us or someone else would have control over them. So, something to think about. Slave parents whooped their young to prepare them for harsh realities of plantation life and to protect them from abuse at the hands of masters, overseers, and other whites who only value Black life as a means to profit. During Jim Crow, whooping was used as a survival tactic to teach Black children proper racial etiquette so they would not risk being beaten or lynched by whites. And I think we take that same thought process into how some of us raise our kids today. Wouldn't you agree? I'm punishing you now so you understand, it's going to be a lot rougher out there. So we're doing it out of love for the most part. Some parents take it too far. But what is too far, you guys? Does anybody have any suggestions or any thoughts on what is too far? So I'm reading, yeah, and so she goes on to say, in fact, what 50 years of research around the world has shown, this is around the world, is that when we hit children, we are often sowing the seeds for the very behaviors and negative outcomes that whoopings are supposed to prevent, namely disobedience, aggression, dishonesty, antisocial behavior, mental health problems, poor educational achievement, low self esteem, early puberty, risky sex, and a host of other issues. Whoopings are literally changing brain chemistry and the brain's physical architecture. The stress our children face in putting them at risk for chronic health problems over their lifespan, and the trauma is even being passed on to future generations through their DNA. Food for thought. Food for thought. It's really, it really, just another way to look at things. And this is written from a woman who went into the foster care system. So she was adopted, and her adopted mother spanked her. And she says it wasn't, sometimes it was brutal for her. It was a brutal experience. So she does admit that maybe she has a bias in this, but she also has facts and data. So there's footnotes, there's research. So she's not just throwing stuff out in the air and just basing her perception on proximity. She has done the research based on other people who have done the research. And so that's important to know. It's very important to know. But yeah, I'm excited to get more into this conversation. She does add that she doesn't pretend to have any easy or definitive answers or interventions for the remarkably complex issues but this book explores. She says African Americans are the descendants of the survivors of the Middle Passage, centuries of Americans, slavery, and Jim Crow era genocidal violence. After all that Black folks have been through in this country for almost 400 years, now is not the time for some self-inflicted pain and trauma. So she's saying, hey, we're inflicting the same pain and trauma that was put on us, and we're passing it down from generation to generation. He says, every time we whoop our kids, it says we believe America's racist messages about our humanity, that the only way to make us healthy, responsible, law-abiding, moral, and loving people is through a good whooping. And then she asked, do we really believe this? I think it's a good question. I think it's a good question, thought-provoking question. And that's just chapter 1. So chapter 1 is titled A Family Conversation. And she says, yeah, this is something that we should be having, at the kitchen table amongst each other. And she brought it to the forefront, to the public, because she wanted to have this dialogue with the masses, I suppose. But chapter 2, which I'm into now, is a love whooping. And I kind of touched on that too. So I want to get into that some more. And I'm looking forward to, again, I don't want to just have this conversation singularly, because I did talk about this during the pandemic, just highlighting the conversation that she was having on other interviews. So, I'll work to get people on who want to have a conversation and get different perspectives. And I'm interested to see if their perspectives change as they continue to read the book. So join me, you guys, in reading this book, Spare the Kids. I don't know if there's an audio book. I didn't find one. I just went through the public library because it's free. I love free stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I bought this book, but the audio books, I try to download the audiobooks from the Libby app here for the public library when I want to just listen. That way I can move around and still listen. But I'm doing a lot of highlighting in here. And so again, it's Spare the Kids, Why Whooping Children Won't Save Black America, written by Dr. Stacy Patton. You guys follow her on Facebook. She is off the chain. She cracks me up. She puts a nice spin on people who come for her, these trolls or whatnot. So yeah, I just wanted to propose that thought to you. You guys, stay strong out there. Do what you can, one step at a time. It's kind of like when we're trying to change our eating habits, which we should. Everything, do it in moderation. You don't have to cold turkey. Just stop going to one store. Mine was Target, and then I found another way to buy my Black products that I used to buy from Target. Going a week, not having, going to these stores is not a big deal for me. I just have to remember not to do it, and we good. And so I'm working on that too. Um, yeah, I think that's it, you guys. I think that's it. That's what I wanted to share with you. I hope that you took away some good information. Again, your presence is my presence, so I appreciate you all. Let me just go ahead and thank you all who engaged me in the chat, the few of you, and show my appreciation to you on In Your Ear Radio. Thank you so much. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of the week. Be safe, you guys. It's a blackout. There's other places to go. There's other places to go. If you're looking for, again, if you're looking for another Amazon type of resource, that place again is shopredbag.com. Go there. Lots of local places you can patronize right here in your own city. Restaurants, Black-owned businesses, restaurants, hair supply stores. That's what we should be spending our money anyway, right? Yeah, so if it's just for a week, just give it a try. You might like it. You might even love it, you know? And yeah, let our money speak for us. Much love, respect. Enjoy the rest of your day.